FBI is now investigating whether those alleged Hunter Biden emails are actually connected to a larger foreign intelligence operation.
They may be related to a foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence operation.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence.
Foreign intelligence operation.
For all we know, these emails are made up.
The information found on the laptop may be part of a Russian disinformation campaign.
Part of a Russian disinformation effort.
That's just sound bites from the media back in 2020 describing the Hunter Biden laptop story as Russian disinformation. Our next guest first broke the story in October, right before the election, which responded with the New York Post getting banned on Twitter for those even trying to share the article online. Joining us now to discuss is the political editor now at Breitbart, Emma Jo Morris. Emma Jo, thanks for coming on today. If you could, let's go back in time a little. Take our viewers back to 2020, where this laptop appeared. It appeared to belong to then-candidate Joe Biden's son that contained controversial material and a possible connection to business dealings in Ukraine. No media outlets were really interested. Why did you believe it was newsworthy?
It was obviously newsworthy. So the laptop was abandoned by Hunter Biden at a repair shop where he went to have it transferred to a new computer. And he was addicted to crack at the time and basically just forgot about it and got busy with other things. Couldn't keep track of much in his life, as he will attest. But I mean, it was newsworthy because not only was there copious amounts of information about his own sketchy businesses abroad, but there were also many emails obviously pertaining to the presidential candidate Joe Biden at the time. So that was definitely newsworthy, as he was implicated in deals all around the world.
And the New York Post published that story, and then it was met with censorship from Twitter. The New York Post account being shut down, essentially on pause for several weeks, I think. You weren't able to share that article on Twitter or even through direct messages at the time. So what was your reaction when Twitter responded in that way, following your own investigation into the legitimacy of the laptop?
I had imagined that there would be some sort of censorship effort or an effort to curb the distribution of the material. Obviously, I mean, it's not exactly a secret what the political leanings in Silicon Valley are. And, you know, they're a private company, as many on the right and left will tell you. So they have their own mechanism for their algorithms and all that. And I figured that it would be met with some sort of resistance by them. But I mean, what we saw was absolutely historic. I think that's why, or a major reason why we're still talking about this story almost 2 years later, is because it was just absolutely unprecedented. It was unheard of. It was actually unthinkable at the time. And, you know, now we talk about it kind of casually, but if you really think about it, this was critical information for the American people to know leading up to them making a decision of who they want to be their next president. And, you know, the overlords of information for all of us decided that they didn't want you to know about it.
Well, restricted access to the story, perhaps. You really did have to seek it out, information. You had to go directly to the New York Post website just to be able to read it, quite frankly. And as we played right off the top of the segment here, it was dismissed as Russian disinformation. What's interesting, though, is most recently, the New York Times released their own article, a separate topic having to do with Hunter Biden, and they casually referenced this laptop here. What was that moment like when you saw that in the piece, essentially acknowledging that it was legit?
I mean, so this keeps happening, right? Like Politico had a similar moment a couple months ago. Their national reporter, Ben Schreckinger, wrote a book about the Bidens and Joe Biden's rise to power. And he referenced emails that were on the laptop, but he actually went to a third party, as a journalist does, to ask, you know, do you have a copy of this as well? You know, he went to somebody who was CC'd on the email in question. But the New York Times was even kind of much more brazen in the way that they did this about face, because they didn't add any new reporting. They didn't do any extra legwork to actually confirm it themselves. They obviously probably went off of Ben Schreckinger's word, and they just are kind of like, here's a reference to the laptop now that we're casually throwing in paragraph 24 of this story about Hunter Biden. And they kind of did this tacit acknowledgement with zero new information. They just decided now last week that, okay, the laptop is fair game and we can report it as truth.
Yeah.
Quite something.
Yeah, indeed, of course, the fact that we're still talking about it. But not all outlets are. In fact, the ones that dismissed it initially as Russian disinformation, have there been follow-ups? Have there been corrections or even clarifications when it comes to their own reporting?
No, of course not. And listen, I wrote a column on Breitbart.com over the weekend. It published, and I'm talking about this because they will not, address their previous reporting. They're just kind of trying to memory hole it. I mean, the New York Times just casually, acknowledges that the laptop is authentic last week, when at the time they called it, quote, Baroque mythology in a column that they published in October of 2020. So, they're just trying to pretend that this never happened. But the thing is, as I write in my column, the quote that I used was ink stains. And any of their readers that see this and are maybe like, what's this about? Because they hadn't heard about it before because it had been so censored and ignored or whatever, are now going to go and look it up. And what happens when you Google it, the first sources that come up are obviously the legacy media sources, where they're just on this riff altogether about how this is Russian disinformation or how it's, quote, Baroque mythology. So their credibility is going to be damaged, most importantly, with their readers who actually notice this, think it's funny, look into it and see the lies and disinformation that they were fed at such a critical moment. It's such disrespect. It's actually disgusting to their readers, most importantly.
All right. We got to leave it at that. But we appreciate you taking the time and joining us today. Emma Jo Morris, thank you so much.